welcome back to my channel. If you guys don't know who I am, my name is Divyanka and I'm a PharmD. Here on my channel we talk about pharmacy, professional tips, careers, everything and anything in between. And my main goal for all my videos is to make sure that you guys learn something and that there's something for you guys to take away. Now in this video, we're actually going to talk about something that's kind of dreadful. And if you guys are in the same boat that I am, we are struggling through it. And that is the job search during COVID-19 in 2020. Let's face it, this is a hard time. And it's not only for us, it's a lot of people. But for us, freshly new graduates, the class of 2020, it just really sucks. First of all, if you've graduated this year, congratulations. Although it might not seem like it, I hope our efforts that we've put into our schooling years definitely do pay off. And I know it's a hard time. It is hard. And I'm going through it as well. So I just kind of wanted to take this video to talk about my experience during the job search during COVID-19, what I've experienced, what I've gone through, things that I've done to keep myself motivated, things that I've done to improve my resume, everything and anything that I can think of I will pour into this video. And if anything, I hope it's helpful. If you're going through the job search process right now and are struggling, I hope this gives you some ideas. I hope we can all kind of chat in the comments below and help each other out, motivate each other, because again, this is a very hard time and this is definitely a time that we need to support each other. Like I mentioned, us newly graduates are not the only ones going through this issue. Many people have lost their jobs in the US, and that's never good news for anyone. So not only are people struggling who are finding their first jobs, but people who have already held positions have now lost their jobs. So we are all struggling, we're all in this together, and I just want you to know that it is okay to feel like you're struggling. It is okay to feel like this really just is weighing down on you. It sucks, it really does, and I hope that we'll all kind of come back from it, jump back from it, as soon as we all can. Now, from my experience and from the talks that I've had with a lot of people, a lot of industries are paused in terms of hiring. And again, from my experience, what I've seen is a lot of junior roles specifically are just not recruiting. Of course, that's what I'm targeting, junior roles, and the industry that I'm targeting is the pharmaceutical industry. Now, just to kind of highlight the information for the pharmaceutical industry, I am absolutely no recruiter. I am no pro at this, but again, this is just based upon my experience from the talks that I've had with people in the industry, from recruiters that I've talked to, and the insight that I've gained from all of those conversations. In the pharmaceutical industry, generally people think that the industry is doing quite well, which I think, yes, it is. But I think it really depends on what company you're talking about and what general type of company you're talking about. The big pharmaceutical companies are doing well because they are well established, they have a good source of revenue, and the amount of money that they have as a company is not going to run out anytime soon. Additionally, the patients who need their medications are still going to be needing them, whether there's COVID in the world or not. So regardless, they are still helping their patients. There is still a need to help their patients, and they are still withstanding with all the work that they need to do. I think the companies that are really affected by all of this are really the small to mid-sized companies within the pharmaceutical industry. And there are many companies that I've received notes back from where I've applied to positions and I've gotten notices that say this position that you've applied to is now on hold. There's no definite date of when that position is coming back. And like I mentioned, I'm applying to a lot of junior roles because I'm an entry-level graduate and those are the roles that I'm looking at. So a lot of those roles have just been nixed. And if they are hiring, they're hiring for executive level roles. Now, I have some things that I've been doing during this time to, again, keep myself motivated, to make sure that I'm utilizing this downtime to the best of my ability for my professional life. And so I just want to share those tactics and those things with you guys so that maybe these can spark some more ideas for you guys. If you guys aren't doing any of those things and think that it would be helpful for you, then maybe you can go ahead and start. And again, I'm just here to kind of share the knowledge, share what I'm doing, share my struggle, and update you on how that's going. So I've talked to a lot of people, and a lot of people have suggested to actually use this downtime not only to job search and apply to positions, but also to really hone in on your skills and acquire new skills if you'd like to do so. Use this time to get better at something. It can either be professionally or not for your professional life, but actually use this time as a productive measure to do something. Professionally, I've been using this time to take some classes online, gain some certifications, and add those to my resume, again, to add skills to my resume and my professional portfolio. There's a bunch of sites online. I've, of course, been looking into healthcare specific, industry specific, clinical trial specific courses online, and some resources that I've been using are Coursera, edx.com, Khan Academy, etc. But there are a lot more resources out there depending on what you want to actually expand on, whether it's tech, whether it's art. Again, there are a multitude of resources out there, so definitely just use what's best for you. But that's what I've been doing, and it definitely takes my mind off of the job search. It helps me kind of grow more skills, add things to my resume, add skills to my resume, and hopefully these can help me to even gaining a job and a position that I like. Another thing that I've really been using this time to do is network. I've been reaching out to people on LinkedIn in positions where I'd either like to learn more about their positions, their backgrounds, people who are in positions that I'd like to be in, whether it's in the future or in the next few months when I'm applying. Whenever it is, I'm just trying to grow my network, and I think this is a really easy time to do that. So my general process there is I reach out to people on LinkedIn, I just set up some time to talk to them, and it's just a quick 30-minute conversation, whether it's via phone, via Zoom, Skype, whatever it is. Everyone's sitting at home, so they have those measures and they can speak to you, and just carving out times to have these conversations. I've actually definitely grown my network by doing this. I've definitely learned a lot from people out in the industry, people who are in higher posts, understanding how they got there, understanding their paths to their roles, understanding what they think is the best use of my time right now, and I do ask that question. I think it's very valuable to get insight from other people, and especially people who are in roles that you see yourself in. So that's definitely something that's been exciting. It adds something to my agenda every day. I have a certain amount of calls that I schedule, and I talk to different people, get different insight, and it's been great. So again, I think it's definitely a great time to kind of grow your network, utilize this time to talk to people you have not talked to before, or actually just reconnect with people in your network. So I was talking to someone actually in my network who I met back in January, February, and we were talking, and he gave me the great idea of reconnecting with people that maybe you are in your network, but you haven't connected with them professionally in a while. So this is a great time. Again, everyone's at home, just text them, call them, email them, and be like, hey, can we set up a 30-minute call? Just want to know what you're up to. I think that's, again, a great way to still expand your network, get an update on what people are doing, share your struggle where you are in your life professionally with these people. And again, I don't think this can hurt at all. Now, another thing that I've been doing during this time is working on my resume. I've spent a good amount of time reworking my resume and honestly creating more resumes or CVs that I might need for different job positions that I'm applying for. So I am applying in the same industry for the same type of role, but again, the role can really differ from company to company, and I'm applying for a few different types of roles. So it can really help to have tailored resumes. So I'm taking this time out to read up on other people's resumes, send my resume to people in my network, getting insight on what improvements I should make, etc., and make those changes. This is the perfect time to do that. I have so much time on my hands. I can leisurely look at my resume, edit it, send it to people, have comments back, etc. And again, I don't think you'll get this much downtime again to ever do that, so take advantage of it. I'm really using this time to make my resume top notch so that once positions do start opening up and when I do send it out, I won't have to spend time doing that part of it, which of course always takes time, and there's some tailoring you always need to do, but it'll take the heavy lifting off of that. Now, the next few things I'm going to say are just kind of general tips and things that people have said to me. And one of those things is just to take a breather. I have been very stressed, very anxious a lot of these days, not knowing where I'm going to end up, what job I'm going to end up in, and it truly has been nerve-wracking some days. And the best piece of advice I've gotten is it's okay. It's okay to not look at job-related stuff for a day, 2 days, whatever helps you, and kind of get a breather from that. Don't just involve your head in the job searching process. And whether you take those breathers by taking courses, doing online certifications like I already mentioned, or going on a run, or involving yourself in other hobbies, or whatever it is, just take your mind off of the job search here and there, because you do really get engrossed in it. You start feeling demotivated, you feel like no movement is happening, and a lot of it is just not due to our abilities. And a lot of people have told me this, but it's a hard time. Like I mentioned, so many people have lost their jobs, so it's only evident that we might not get positions right now, and that's okay. It's not okay to really demotivate ourselves and feel down about our abilities. That's only hurting ourselves. So again, the best advice I've gotten is really just to take a breather, take it slow. Things will happen as they happen, positions will open up, and we're all kind of in the same boat. The next tip I have is actually to be a little wary of where you're sending your resume and who you're talking to. I think I really got in a system and a boat where I was, of course, a little desperate and I was talking to any and every recruiter out there. And there are a lot of recruiters that might push for the wrong things. Of course, they get commission for the roles that they do fill, and you can tell very easily the recruiters that are in there for your best interest, finding a role that really fits you versus those who are not. And I had to take a step back and just really realize and make sure that I'm talking to the right recruiters, I'm talking to the right people, I'm getting my information from the right sources and not just going for everything that's in front of me. Of course, this is a desperate time, but I, again, really had to take a step back. And I just want to make it a point to say that, again, be a little wary of who you're talking to, which recruiters you're talking to, and what's really good for you in the long run, and not only because you want a job. And my third tip is, again, based off of the same conversation, and that is to not settle. Do not settle for any position that just comes your way just because you want a job, especially for us new grads. It feels like we're just not capable because we don't have a job. And I've been told time and time over again, don't feel like that, because you don't want to go for the first offer that's given to you, because what if that role is just not right and you only take it out of desperation? You're not going to be happy in the role, you're not going to have good professional growth in that role, and it's just not going to be ideal. Again, just take a step back, don't settle, and just really think about everything you're doing and taking in terms of opportunities, in terms of roles, in terms of how you're utilizing this time. Holistically, everything. You don't want to get demotivated. It's a long process and there can be many rounds of interviews for different positions. You don't want to burn yourself out, and especially because of COVID, our process is definitely going to be longer. I really want to hone in on the fact that this is definitely a hard time. I'm sitting here right with you, and I know I sound all motivated and great today, but there have been days where I've talked to my friends or my family members and I'm on the verge of tears, or I just don't feel motivated enough, I don't feel great about myself, I don't want to touch job stuff, and it's just a really hard process right now. So don't feel as demotivated as you have been. Really try to motivate yourself and do other things to really, again, utilize this time to the best of your ability. It's the only thing we can do. Nothing else is in our power, so we might as well just do that. I hope this video was helpful. I hope you guys learned at least one thing from this video. I hope you guys took something away. And if anything, I hope I revived a little bit of motivation in you within this really hard time. Thank you so much for watching. If you guys have any additional comments or questions, feel free to comment below. Email me, I will respond. I'm pretty good at that, so definitely don't be afraid to reach out. And that's it for this video. Again, I hope it was helpful, and you guys will see me in my next one.